Have you ever seen a mermaid? Countless sailors would swear they have seen one, and who knows what lies under the waves. But in the early 1840s, the people of Charleston, South Carolina, were convinced they had seen an actual mermaid. Hi, I'm the Seersucker Guy, and today we're going to talk about the incredible story of the Fiji mermaid. In the early summer of 1842, the press in New York City started receiving letters from correspondents south of the equator about an English doctor and his amazing discovery, an actual mermaid. When Dr. J. Griffin of the British Lyceum of Natural History showed up in the city in July of that year, the press were waiting for him, and they were all demanding to see his discovery. After much back and forth, he showed them his discovery, and they were completely convinced of its authenticity. Not long after this, the great showman P.T. Barnum went to the papers and explained that he had been trying to get Dr. Griffin to let him show this amazing new discovery at his museum, and the doctor would not let him do it. Barnum gave them a woodcut of a beautiful bare-breasted mermaid, saying that they could use it for a story, since without the original specimen, it was no longer useful to him. Each paper, thinking that they had an exclusive, ran an article with the woodcut, and they all got published on July 17th. The Fiji mermaid, as it was now being called, was suddenly the talk of the town. People demanded to see the specimen, and finally, Dr. Griffin relented, presenting it on Broadway for a week. The crowds were enormous. Dr. Griffin himself gave lectures on his experiences and his theories on natural history. Griffin argued that the mermaid must be real because each thing on land had its counterpart in the sea. Things such as sea lions and sea horses and sea dogs. So of course, there must be sea humans like mermaids and mermen. The people in New York City ate it up, as did the papers who gave the whole thing rave reviews. After the week was up, Dr. Griffin allowed the specimen to be put in Barnum's American Museum. Ticket sales immediately tripled. The Fiji mermaid arrived in Charleston, South Carolina in January of 1843, where it was put on display at the Masonic Temple. Its arrival sparked a debate between the two leading newspapers in Charleston, the Courier and the Mercury. The Reverend John Bachman, a Lutheran minister and naturalist, denounced the specimen in the Mercury, saying that it was a vice manufacture palmed on our community as a great natural curiosity. The Courier, on the other hand, denounced Bachman and his supporters as unqualified skeptics. The debate became so heated and bitter that some people feared it may have ended in a duel. The exhibit closed early, and the mermaid was sent away for fear of it being destroyed or damaged. So, was the Fiji mermaid a real mermaid? I think you already know the answer, if only because the great showman P.T. Barnum was involved. It was a hoax, a very elaborate hoax, even for Barnum. The public was deceived in three ways. First, while the woodcut that Barnum gave the newspapers was that of a beautiful young woman, the actual specimen was hideously ugly. It was the head of a dried-up monkey attached to the tail of a dried-up fish. So ugly was it that a reporter for the Charleston Courier put it this way, and I quote, "The sight of the wonder has forever robbed us. We shall never again discourse, even in poesy, of mermaid beauty, nor woo a mermaid even in our dreams, for the Fiji lady is the very incarnation of ugliness." End quote. The second part of the hoax was the good Dr. Griffin. He was a fraud. Not only was he not an English gentleman, there was no such thing as the British Lyceum of Natural History. The man was Levi Lyman, and he was an accomplice of Barnum's. Barnum himself had sent all those letters to the newspapers that summer and orchestrated all the PR once Dr. Griffin had arrived. Nobody does it better than P.T. Barnum. And lastly, the Fiji mermaid wasn't real, and Barnum knew it. He had bought it from someone who had bought it from a sailor. Barnum himself even took it to a naturalist just to make sure and confirm that it was a fake. But it didn't matter to Barnum because, as he often said, it didn't matter if it was real. It only mattered if people thought it could be real. So what in the world was the Fiji mermaid? Well, turns out it was an example of a traditional art form practiced by Japanese fishermen who often used them in religious ceremonies. Barnum had originally planned for the mermaid to tour the southern states, but after the controversy in Charleston, it was sent back to New York, where it was actually destroyed in a fire. So that's the story of the Fiji mermaid, an elaborate hoax that captivated Charlestonians in January of 1843. And maybe a really good example of something we all need to remember: don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, click like and click subscribe. I'm the Seersucker Guy. Thanks for watching.